Hi, welcome to Free Spirit and welcome to a spirit message and tip. Okay, so this is like decades in the making. I just want to say a lot of my videos I've touched on a lot of these points, but I'm going to put it all in this one video. And I'm excited to share this because literally if it can help one person, just one person, it is worth the time to post this video. Okay, so I'm going to share all my spirit tips for lowering anxiety. I'm going to literally share all my spiritual tips for lowering anxiety that have worked for me. And we're talking about over the years, over the decades, all my spiritual tips for lowering anxiety that have worked for me. So this became, after writing it all down, almost like a real top 10 list of spiritual tips for lowering anxiety. It came out in the reading right before this, and those have been commenting about anxiety, right? And it's no surprise we all suffer to some degree with this in the world we live in and what we are all dealing with. And I want to share all my spiritual tips for lowering anxiety that I have used, that I have applied over the years, that have really worked for me. And keep in mind, now everyone's different and you can try some or none. But since the subject came up, I want to freely share all that has worked for me in case it can help another lower their anxiety the moment it starts to occur. And that is a big key point that I'm going to touch on first, the moment it starts to occur. So here are all my spiritual tips for lowering anxiety that have worked for me. And also, by seeing or trying some of these tips, it may just also open you up even more to find more ways that work for you, right? So even if these don't work, at least it creates an opening that you'll find ways that work for you. I'm going to put this all in the description box, just like all my other messages and tips. So I'm going to go with it's 1 through 10. It came into 10, okay? The number one main point is to lower your anxiety the moment you feel it percolating. Now, this was a huge awareness, and I'm just going to share this with you. The main point is to lower your anxiety the moment you feel it percolating, when it's just starting. Don't focus on why it's occurring right now. Just focus on lowering it right now because you're feeling too much and you need to immediately alleviate that. It's as if you were plugged into something that's just too much. It's it's much easier to address this sooner than later as it builds up. So you just want to nip it in the bud. Now, I'm going to share with you here an analogy that I received personally, directly, a spirit tip many years ago that always stayed with me and helped me in the scenario. I mean, really brought it home for me. And I'm going to share here the analogy of the stove with the boiling water. Now, I just replied to somebody in the comments sharing that analogy, and I want to do it in this video. This was the analogy I was given. You will never look at your anxiety the same. It is so much easier to address it sooner than later as it builds up. So just nip it in the bud. Here's the analogy of the stove with boiling water, which has saved me many, 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 many times, countless times. You can feel anxiety starting almost like a bubbling, and just like bubbling hot boiling water on a stove, you're going to want to run to the stove to turn down the dial before it all boils over, right? So just as you run to a stove, run over back to you and lower it. That's the urgency, like that's the importance. Now, there was something really pivotal about this because I was shown many times in my life, you tough it out, you're yelling at yourself, you're not on your own side even when it starts to percolate. So it's getting kicked up, kicked up, kicked up. No, this is boiling hot water. You run to lower it as quick as you would boiling hot water on a stove, right? Picture boiling hot water on a stove. You're literally running over there to lower the knob so it doesn't run over. That is where your place is at the moment. Number 2, less analyzing right away on the why, because that's where we get stuck and we start to spiral. But to focus on unplugging the input, the cause of it, to get immediate relief. You can leave, you can stop, you can take a breather, right? So the focus is just to lower the input. Number 3, what was the input? What was the input? You hear that shot out there? What was the input? Now that you calm down, you can examine it, right? Almost like that pot on the stove. Now that you turn down the knob, you can see what you're left with almost. What was happening? What were your thoughts? All of that. Then you can do that. Number 4, can you change you plugging into that again? This is going to show you what were the triggers for you, like what was happening. Number 5, what can you change or do right now? Now that you lowered the knob for yourself, what can you change or do right now to now amp up calm, peace, balance? Do it now. So it's really addressing your levels first, not the whys, right? 6 is being there for yourself to catch yourself, is self-love for yourself in action. And we really put this in action. And number 7 is finding and incorporating more things that increase your state of calm and peace, and plug in more to that on the daily. And that was really important too, because it's almost like you're changing your baseline. Like if you're just making it like you're on one level, but if you're increasing your calm, your peace, all of that, you're up a level, your baseline is higher. So if something happens, you're not triggered as much. There was something about that they really brought home, like on the daily, plug in, almost feed yourself more calm and peace all the time. So you're keeping a better baseline. 8, this is huge. This is very huge. And you're going to see changes in your life. Be okay with letting go of places, things, people that are constant triggers and quote unquote not good for you. Now I'm telling you, I had to say goodbye even to places I worked, people that I considered friends, things that I was doing. I mean, you're gonna notice the constant triggers and what is quote unquote not good for you. Number 9 is, they want me to share some additional tips that I've personally found out, and some are really strange, but they really work. I want to say the crux of this is, very often when we have anxiety, or they post it as almost an empowering way that you are a feeler, that you're sensitive, that there is an honoring that needs to take place here. This is not something for you to fight, but to support, right? Like the same thing you look at as a weakness is also your strength. Your sensitivity is needed here, right? You're a feeler, you're sensitive. So there's something about changing even the way you think about it and being on your own side. I want to share some additional spirit tips that I've personally found out as I live my life here for how many decades now. Some are so strange, but they work. And I, for the sake of being embarrassed, if it can help another, I'm going to share it all. Okay? Here are all my tips. Where to stand or sit in crowded places. I hear this a lot when you have sensitivities, you have anxiety. It's very off-putting, crowded places. Now, if you're coming to the movies with me, we're sitting in the back row. You're going to a concert, we're sitting in the back row, or I need to sit on the aisle. You're going to find where to stand or sit in crowded places. Your best bet is in the back or on a side, somewhere where you're not surrounded. You're just going to feel that. Also, even stores, bigger is not always better. I always was noticed, I almost went out of body if it was a huge, where I live, we have much smaller stores and much smaller supermarkets. It almost wasn't great when I went with other people to like these huge stores, huge supermarkets, where there's so many people, so many products, so much, it's, you want to get in and out of there. I would have about a half an hour capacity in there. It's too much. Your too much is going to differ from other people's too much. So you can go to smaller places. You can go to less crowded places, right? Now, I'm gonna share with something that I even found out that was really amazing. 2 things was how I even wore my hair changed once I realized the difference. Now, I even did some research on this, but I happen to have long hair, and for those that have long hair, I always tend to wear my hair in a ponytail or a low bun, but I even found lately I've been wearing it in a high bun, up real tight on the top of my head. I even did research on this. There's something where you kind of hold on to your own energy, especially if you're surrounded or constantly interacting with other people and their energy. You know that thing about staying out of your hair? Hair is like an extension of your nervous system. I read something in India, they were talking about it as like almost antennas for your nervous system. Now, there's not a lot of research done on this, but if you dig deep, like I did a couple of years ago to substantiate what I was getting directly, as a spirit tip, about how I would do better. I tend to always wear my hair up. Now, I just find this completely works so amazing because it feels like people's energy are literally out of your hair. Your hair is like an extension of your nervous system, almost like antennas. So when it's wrapped up, you're just more intact. You're not picking up so much energy. I've just noticed an extreme difference with that. I can't even begin to tell you. And if you dig deep on the internet, you'll find some things that substantiate this. But besides that, even if there was nothing, it worked for me. And that's what I just want to say. If you find something that works for you, it's amazing. Another thing that I found out just by chance, when you are stuck in a crowded place or surrounded by a lot of people, say you're at, I don't know, some event or you're some whatever, very often we are dressed in layers, like whether you have a sweater, you have a jacket, you have something on. If you wrap it, take your coat or take your jacket, take your sweater, take whatever layer you have, wrap it around your waist. You know how you can walk around? It's covering your solar plexus. There's something about that where you don't feel as you're losing so much energy. It got rid of the feeling of feeling out of body from the energy. I'm telling you, the way you wear your hair covering your solar plexus, I just found by chance, really makes a huge difference of holding on to your own energy and much more effective. And I know that's a very strange thing to say, but I am telling you, it really is amazing. So if you have long hair or if you're overwhelmed by energy, trying the difference of how you're, wrapping your hair or covering your solar plexus. Now, when I'm home and everything, my hair is down, but when I'm going out, I'm constantly putting my hair up, and I find I'm very much holding on to my own. I'm not picking up as much. You don't always want to be such a picker-upper of everything, because it's what they're bringing home is it's your sensitivity, and it's to honor it, right? Because part of that is your strength. I'm just telling you, a lot of this is revamping how you even think about it, because we're programmed that anxiety is like you're weak, you can't, no, it's part of your strength, but you're to honor this, and you're going to find spirit tips to almost like survive better here. Okay, so those were two weird tips, but I'm including here. He made a huge difference. And people even say, like in the summer when they see me, sometimes I have, like one of those sweater cardigans, even if I'm wearing shorts and a t-shirt, I have it wrapped around my waist. And they're like, you always, and I just say it light, like, oh, I never know when I'm gonna get cold, places are air conditioned. But the truth is that I'm covering my solar plexus to deal with you all. I'm holding on to my energy. Like I feel more contained and I'm not so open. It's some kind of protection, I'm just telling you. And with my hair, I just say my hair makes me hot, so I'm always wearing it up. Okay. All right. So anyway, people don't have to know your reasons why. That's another thing. It's like you don't have to over-explain. Okay, here, another tip that I found: watching and listening to less horrific input makes such a huge difference. Like if you're getting plummeted all the time with horrific, detailic news, TV shows, movies, I mean, the impact that this has, your body is reacting to that. You're a big walking nervous system, sensitive to it all. You're going to find that people used to make fun of me. I always have a list saved on my DVR of like feel-good movies. I have my songs that are up, that are positive, that I play on repeat. You're very much the stimuli, the input, what you're plugged into. It doesn't mean sticking your head in the sand. You can read a one-liner, two-liner to understand the atrocities that are happening around us or what's happening. But to be constantly fed, and I do use that term fed, this frenetic, chaotic, horrific, detailic. There was a point where I had read a story, I saw a story on television about something horrific. It stayed with me for a week. It was like you can't get it out. It's you're much more of a sponge. You just naturally are. It's not a weakness, but it's to know that. Watch and listen to less horrific input, news, TV shows, movies. It's okay. You don't have to explain to anybody else, okay? And this is huge too. Balancing out better the work, play, sleep, meals, exercise to support a well-balanced nervous system. Now, I know I'm lumping that all together, but this is very huge. First of all, balancing out a better work and play. Some of us, we work. This has been a recurring theme. You balance out that work and play. A lot of us, actually, this COVID time really helped people kind of rearrange their balance of work and play in a bizarre way, right? This work and play, like you really got to balance that out. It's just as important. Sleep, there are no words to describe how healing, and if you don't get enough sleep, you're going to be so much more triggered and such more a nervous wreck. Like sleep, my worst years were when I was a night owl and then I was expected to work like 7 o'clock in the morning, 7:30 I had to be at work, working on like 3 or 4 hours sleep a night. I was a walking bag of nerves, right? This is not good at all. And if you find you're waking up earlier or you have to get up early, try to almost fake out that you have more of an evening. Like eat your dinner earlier so that you have more of an evening to unwind and go to sleep earlier. No matter if you have to trick yourself, but you do have to work in more sleep. It is so, so, so important. I can't even underscore that enough. And I know everybody's, so busy, but we really have to get that sleep in. It's so important. You can't sacrifice it. By the second day of lack of sleep, you're really going to be more of a bag of nerves. And then we're not going to eat properly, which goes to meals, because now we're reaching for things to keep us up and going, more caffeine, more sugar. The meals, you're going to be guided to eat healthier. You're going to notice how you're feeling, the sugar especially, you're crashing, even a lot of caffeine because you've got to stay up, or you're just going to feel that your nervous system, your body reacts to food. And you're going to find that you're really going to notice your awareness of how you feel after you eat something or drink something, and tweak it along the way. Exercise. This was the whole thing, balance out better, workplace, sleep, meals, exercise to support your well-balanced nervous system. People talk about exercise as a means to lose weight. I never even look at exercise that way. I look at it as sanity. I look at it as to work out your nervous system, to let go. You are clear out. You're going to get a better balanced nervous system. You're like working it out. You're releasing things in exercise. It's really for sanity. I just look at it as sanity. It's a plus that you stay in shape, but exercise is so important to support a balanced nervous system, right? To support a well-balanced nervous system. So they have me lump it all together, but that's just little extras. Balance out a better workplace, sleep, meals, exercise to support a well-balanced nervous system. And each one of us is different. We each have different reactions to things, and just notice where you can better balance some of that. Now, another thing is really making sure you take breaks even more often, even if just a few minutes, no matter how busy you are, to feel calmer during the day. Now, this is a big thing because a lot of us are squeezing a million things in each day, but I find even just a few minutes, get up, walk around, do something, look out a window, water your plants, take a shower. I mean, whatever you do for a few minutes a day, or even better to balance out, get some exercise, whatever it is. But no matter how busy it is, take a 5-minute breather in between. There's something about retaining your calm, to be calmer even during a frenetic busy day. It doesn't matter how many people are pulling at you, you retain your calm and balance. This is so huge because a lot of us, we're getting constant pulled for our focus, our time, our attention. Doesn't matter, 5 minutes. Sometimes my favorite place is the bathroom. Nobody can bother you there. I'm just telling you a secret. I don't even care. Okay, here we go. Increase protection and self-care and appropriate boundaries. This appropriate boundaries, increase protection, self-care, and appropriate boundaries. Now, most of us, this appropriate boundaries, I have to tell you, if you're still listening to this, you're the ones that, if you have anxiety, you're like the sensitive, you're the carer, you're there, you're overexpending to everybody else. This appropriate boundaries, to have your self-care, this appropriate boundaries, sometimes this is going to be really drum home to you. It's going to be a lesson in itself over the years for yourself, appropriate boundaries. Sometimes others too much is very different than yours. This is how to really honor all your sensitivities. Just like everything I mentioned above, it might be nothing to someone else to be in a crowd of like 5,000 people. It might not be the most appropriate for you, right? To have appropriate boundaries. If somebody is overly demanding, overly toxic, doesn't matter if your friend is made of Teflon shield and it doesn't affect her. If the person is affecting you, that is enough. It's too much for you, right? I've had a lot of scenarios where it was like a group of us, and it's almost like people are blind, deaf, and dumb to like the toxicity of someone. And for me, I remember one time we were out at a restaurant, and I've never done this before. I literally had to move my chair away from the table. The impact of our energy just was so toxic to me. I physically moved my table away from the table. You don't need someone else's approval or acknowledgement or recognition that it's too much for you. You have to honor your own boundaries and set your own appropriate boundaries. Sometimes others too much, their barometer is very different than yours. This is how to really honor all your sensitivities. Honoring your sensitivities is honoring yourself. And it's okay to say no or do things that are more honoring you, right? That you are providing you with real divine self-care. And that's why I chose this card from the Real Divine Self-Care deck. Always take real divine self-care of yourself all along the way. And number 10, is blank. This is where you can now write your own ways and tips that you yourself come up with, and be more free with this. Be more free and loving with this. And they said you will be like your own spiritual scientist when it comes to this, just like what I was talking about. It's like I came up with these spirit tips, they worked in my life, then I did research to substantiate, wow, that makes it even makes scientific sense, right? But you are going to be like your own spiritual scientist. You are to be your own spiritual scientist when it comes to this, armed with self-love and even more awareness, being there for yourself in many more ways and making the difference when it comes to all the ways you can be lowering your anxiety. You will find that they really do. You will find that it really does. Here's to all the ways of lowering anxiety and increasing the levels of love, calm, peace, balance. And here's to you, always taking real divine self-care of yourself all along the way. So I wish you the best with this, but that was my top 10 list. And definitely, besides all I mentioned, find your own spirit tips, for lowering your own anxiety. There was something really deep also and profound about the switching of gears of just being on your own side with this more, and really coming up with ways to support and honor your sensitivities, to look at it as the same time where it could be debilitating at times, especially when you didn't know how to be there for yourself, to know at the same time it is a strength in a sense. You're a carer, you're a feeler, you're sensitive. All of these things that get triggered sometimes when utilized in a different way are your asset, is what you're bringing to other things in your life, right? There is something about that because, I don't know, it's a very more empowering way of looking at it. And it also helps you to be there on your own side and have real divine self-care and real love for yourself and being there for yourself. Like going back to the one part, when you really understand that, when it starts bubbling under the surface, you're right there for yourself. You're on your own side with that, with real divine self-love and real divine self-care. So this was all my spiritual tips for lowering anxiety that have worked for me over the years, and I definitely wanted to share it. It's been coming up a lot in the readings and in the comments, and this is everything. This is everything. And feel free to try some or not, and then also find your own ways, and let it just even empower you to find your own ways that you can be on your own side and nip it in the bud even sooner. Because that really is, if you walk away with one thing, it's just when it's starting to percolate, be there for yourself before it even starts boiling over, that you deserve to be on your own side with self-love and self-care for that, and know that it's part of your strengths. It's not a weakness. There's something about that really was a very pivotal thing, because then you're in the proper place to actually do something about it. I love how it ends with, now armed with self-love and even more awareness, being there for yourself in many more ways and making the difference when it comes to all the ways you can be lowering your anxiety. You're going to find that it really does. And, always take real divine self-care of yourself all along the way. I wish you the best. Take care. Bye-bye.